Forget comic books for a second, because we are diving into a truly epic origin story. This one's pulled from some ancient texts, and it's the story of Abram, a man whose birth was literally marked by a sign in the heavens, a prophecy of war and destiny. And this quote right here, it sets the stage perfectly. We're about to jump into this high-stakes story of prophecy, a tyrannical king, and rebellion that kicks off from day one. I mean, it has all the classic beats of a hero's journey, so let's get right into it. Okay, so the story starts way back in the year 1949 after creation. It's the very night Abram is born. Now, his father, Terah, he's a big deal, a high-ranking prince in King Nimrod's powerful kingdom. So there's a huge celebration going on. But outside, the universe itself is putting on a very different kind of show. As King Nimrod's wise men are leaving the party, they all look up at the sky and just freeze. They see this terrifying, unmistakable sign, a single giant star just blazing across the sky, and it's aggressively swallowing up 4 other stars. We're talking about a vision of pure cosmic violence. And what's wild is how fast they get it. There's no debate, no second guessing. They know exactly what this celestial battle means. The child born that night is destined to be a conqueror, a kingslayer. From his very first breath, Abram is a threat to the entire world order. So obviously they're terrified. If they keep this a secret, they're dead. So they go straight to King Nimrod and lay it all out. And the king's reaction? Well, it's exactly what you'd expect from a paranoid tyrant. He immediately calls for Abram's father, Terah. The king's demand is just swift and brutal. No room for argument. He even offers Terah a massive fortune, a house literally filled with silver and gold, if he'll just hand over his infant son. He wants to snuff out this prophecy before it has a chance to even breathe. But Terah, he's clever. He doesn't panic. Instead, he comes back with this brilliant little parable. He asks Nimrod, "Hey, would you trade that priceless, one-of-a-kind warhorse you love for just a pile of money?" The king calls him a fool, and that's when Terah springs the trap, asking how on earth he could be expected to trade his own son for silver and gold. The king is furious, but he's been backed into a corner by his own logic. So he gives Terah an ultimatum. You have 3 days to bring me the child, or your entire household, every single person, will be executed. The clock is officially ticking. So what's the desperate plan? It's a truly heart-wrenching substitution. Terah secretly swaps his son Abram with a baby born to one of his servants. He presents this other child to the king, and Nimrod, believing he finally has the prophesied threat, carries out the execution himself in a moment of sheer, brutal violence. So while the king thinks the danger is gone, Abram is hidden away, growing up in a cave for a decade. Once the heat is off, he's sent to learn from the ancient patriarchs Noah and Shem for the next 39 years. You gotta understand, this isn't just hiding out, it's a training montage. He's being forged into the very man the stars foretold.
All right, fast forward. Abram is now 50 years old, and he finally returns home to his father's house. And what does he find? The place is basically a shrine to 12 huge idols of wood and stone, one for each month of the year. This is the new battlefield.
Abram decides he's going to challenge this whole system, but not with a big debate. No, he's going to run a simple, practical test. He cooks up this delicious, savory meal and presents it as an offering to his father's silent stone gods. He's determined to prove they're powerless. And so he waits. All day long, he just watches as this perfect meal sits there, untouched. And as the hours tick by, you can just imagine his conviction hardening, his quiet observation turning into this burning anger. These gods are frauds. The whole system is a lie. And in a flash, he grabs a hatchet. This is it, his first open act of rebellion. He doesn't just knock them over, he goes in there and systematically smashes the entire pantheon of gods that his family and his whole generation have been worshiping. And then comes the brilliant part. When his dad shows up and asks what happened, Abram, with some serious sarcasm, just points to the one big idol he left standing and says, "Oh, him? He got mad about the meat and destroyed all the other little ones." He uses his father's own beliefs to show him how absurd it all is. Well, Terah is enraged and drags Abram right before King Nimrod. And it's there that the king's sages have this horrifying moment of realization. They see this 50-year-old man and they know it's him. It's the child from the prophecy, the one the great star warned them about 5 decades ago. The threat they thought was long dead is standing right in front of them. So there's no trial, just a sentence.
For rebellion and blasphemy, Abram has to face the ultimate punishment. And to make things even worse, his own father points a finger at Abram's brother, Haran, who is also condemned to die in the flames.
Both brothers are stripped, tied up, and thrown into this roaring furnace. And this is where their paths just diverge completely. Abram is delivered, protected by his absolute faith. But Haran, whose heart was kind of wavering, he wasn't all in, he's completely consumed by the fire and burned to ash.
Can you just imagine this scene? For 3 days and 3 nights, everyone is watching as Abram just walks around calmly in the middle of this inferno. His clothes are fine. The only things that burn away are the ropes they use to tie him up. He is literally walking free inside the fire.
Okay, so 2 years go by. Nimrod probably thought the whole ordeal was over, but Abram's survival planted a seed of pure terror in his mind. And now that terror bubbles up in a horrifying dream, a sign that the prophecy is far from finished.
The dream is just this cascade of violent, symbolic images. The king sees Abram, sword drawn, ready for a fight. He sees an egg that hatches into a massive river that drowns all his armies. Then the river turns back into an egg, and a bird flies out and plucks out the king's eye. The meaning is terrifyingly clear. This is about total and utter destruction.
Jolted awake and absolutely terrified by what his advisor tells him the dream means, Nimrod does the only thing a tyrant knows how to do. He secretly orders his men to kill Abram, desperate to finally get rid of the man who can't be burned.
But a loyal servant, Eliezer, overhears the whole plot. He runs to Abram, tells him to flee for his life. And just in the nick of time, Abram escapes, heading back to the safety of Noah's house while the king's men search everywhere and find nothing. He is now a fugitive.
So Abram's been tested by fire and proven by faith. He stood up to the most powerful king on earth and survived. His journey is so far from over, but his whole world has been turned upside down, forcing him to flee the only home he's ever known. So the real question is, what happens next, when the chosen one is also on the run?